everybody, it's Cheyenne with Wisewood Apothecary. Thanks so much for joining me here. I am on a nice ridgeline in Calgary, and today we're going to be talking about Prairie Sagewort, which is November's plant of the month. So right down here we have Prairie Sagewort. So its Latin name is Artemisia frigida. It is these tiny little leaves down here, which I'll give you a little close up here in my hand. This is the nice sort of fuzzy little, very soft. You can kind of rub it on your face and everything. It's very soft and cozy. These little leaves are about as big as they get. So it is considered to be quite a small plant. These flower stalks here are about as tall as the whole plant will get, so it's not very tall. In the winter you can see the snow come up and maybe a little tip of the flower will poke out of the snow, so you can find them even in winter. So the leaves are what are most used in herbal medicine, cooking, and things like that. It can pretty much be used in lieu of culinary sage. So these are the type of sages that are from the Artemisia family, and the culinary type of sage that you are used to is in the Salvia family. So they are two different species of sage, and they're both called sage. So they grow very different, they have a lot of different properties, but they actually have a lot of similarities as well in terms of flavor especially. So any recipe that uses culinary sage, you might want to give it a try with some Prairie Sagewort. In terms of flavor, it kind of crosses over very well. Now, seeing as this is a very small, somewhat slow-growing plant, with its healthy habitat in decline all across the world, but especially in Alberta, we have to be very careful about over-harvesting. So what that means is that a lot of people hear that we have sage and they will indiscriminately rush to pick wild sage. That's a problem in a lot of ways. One, it is a plant that is very sacred to local indigenous groups, so it's not something that we should be using all willy-nilly. Another thing is that conservation and the preservation of the plant and the ecosystem are not kept in mind. Now, a lot of people are actually indiscriminately harvesting and then selling it. So, you know, there's a big difference between me picking a little bit to put in my family's meal versus me picking a whole bunch of these tiny little plants and putting them together in smudge sticks and things like that and selling them for a profit, which isn't even supposed to be done with smudge. So yeah, it is something to consider. So generally speaking, I would say don't wild harvest. It's pretty easy to grow at home, and it requires almost no upkeep or maintenance once it's established. So it works very good in xeriscaping. So basically that's landscaping with the intention of making everything acclimated to the environment so you don't have to provide supplemental water. So for example, like a green grass lawn is really hard to upkeep and maintain because it's not natural to here. So you want to have a lot of naturalized plants in your yard that you don't have to water all day every day to get nice and healthy like you do with a golf green. So yeah, these do really well in that kind of landscaping. In the right conditions, they can get a little bit weedy, so they can kind of spread and sort of take over an area. But that's not really a problem, considering the areas they like to take over are areas like this, where it is heavily trafficked, all the ground is compacted and pressed down. We're on a nice south-facing, hot slope here. So yeah, this is exactly the type of area it would like take over a little bit more in. But what's good about that is that as the plant dies off, it adds nutrients back into the soil, which is really good for the surrounding ecosystem. Now, this plant is considered to be a little bit evergreeny, which means that it can stay green and alive all through winter and even into the next spring when new growth starts coming up. Now, in an area like this where it's not super protected, you may not be able to find it still green in the winter, but as we can see here, down in this guy over here, the leaves are very green, they're very much alive, they're soft and fuzzy. This is a plant that is still alive and thriving. And what are we? We're midway through November now, so it's a good plant to kind of have around. It's very abundant, it's very versatile, and it's strong. Now, this is used in tons and tons of medical or medicinal purposes as well. We'll go further into that in the paid member post, the medicinal use post. But basically, it's really good for things like digestion, upset stomach, if there's an issue with parasites, things like that. And one of my favorite uses is actually as an insect repellent. So what that means, sorry, there's a dog visiting. So what that means is that when it's burnt, it's actually really good to get the smoke onto your clothes, and what that does is it helps you blend in with nature, helps you smell more like nature and less like a human. So yeah, it's not exactly a repellent where the bug is like, ugh. It's more like a repellent as it helps you blend in. Yeah, so there's lots and lots of different uses for sage, but I would say mostly it's commonly used in foods and flavorings. But yeah, basically try and avoid wild harvesting if you can. Obviously, if there's a situation like you're in a survival situation or there are no plants accessible to you that could be used as an alternative, then for sure use it. But one of the worst crimes we can commit is commercially wild harvest indiscriminately for sale. So it's one of the reasons why my company won't ever offer smudge sticks in that regard. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions or comments or anything. We'd love to hear about your experience with the plant. Just comment down below, or you can send me an email at wisewoodapothecary@gmail.com. Also, this is for a part of the free group, but you can also join as a paid membership on our website at wisewoodapothecary.com, and we get way more in-depth into the plants and learning about it, and includes quite a few cool opportunities. So feel free to subscribe on YouTube, invest in a membership. Either way, I'm grateful to have you here, and I hope you have a great one. Get out there and explore!